since I've been asked to describe some of my recent events that I partook in. And some of you may know that I've won the Padma Shri Award for 2025. Thank you very much. In the category of literature and education. So some of you may know that I've been writing books for a while. And it's interesting because when I started writing books, I started writing for a Western audience. I wanted to preach to Westerners. And somehow or another, I also started to get an audience of Indians. And I started writing for an Indian audience, actually, in some of my books. And then I started getting requests to come to India to do lecture tours. And some of these lecture tours were sponsored by organizations like the RSS, Vivekananda Kendra, Kalyan Ashram, and even the Madhya Pradesh government, the state government. And so things like that. So those kind of doors started to open up for me. And but little did I expect much, to happen the way it did. And quite honestly, preaching to Indian audiences was not one of the things that I had on my plans. I was thinking, I'm just trying to introduce this to other Westerners. And but somehow everything got switched around. And there was a time when I was in a meeting in Washington, D.C., where one of the devotees was saying, you know something? Sri Nandananda, you're more popular amongst the Indian Hindus than you are even in ISKCON. I thought, well, if that's my niche, then so be it. So it worked out pretty well, though, and I was able to introduce a lot of people to, the seriousness of taking Vedic culture as a prime motivator for one's life, and to not only that, but to deal with the challenges that were coming to Vedic culture in India. Because let's face it, as we recently saw in Kashmir, there are entities, there are elements of society that wish to see the complete extermination of Hinduism. And, some devotees don't like to talk about it, but that's the fact of the matter. So how do we take on these challenges? So some of those was some of the topics that I wrote about. And so it started to get noticed by some of the Indian politicians. And my name got around anyway. And so then recently I was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Hindu Mandir Executive Council back in September. And then shortly after that I was awarded another Lifetime Achievement Award from the Vishnu Hindu Parishad of America. So that was real nice. I really liked that. But then 3 months later, I got a call in the middle of the night from the Indian Embassy here in Washington, D.C. And I had already gone to bed. I was already asleep. And I was thinking, and then I heard the phone ring. I'm thinking, should I even answer this phone? I mean, it's 11. Who's going to call me at 11:30 at night, And I thought, well, on the other hand, maybe it's something serious. I was thinking maybe something was happening at the temple that I need to be aware of. And so then I looked on the ID, and it was Indian Embassy. I'm going how the mind works, it always thinks of the worst possible things. Yeah. And so I was thinking, oh no, what did I do wrong? And I was thinking, what they're going to do, because I just got through writing some rather, poignant articles about defending Vedic culture. And I was thinking, what they're going to do is they're going to tell me, because you wrote this, you can never come back to India. And these thoughts were going through my mind so fast, they weren't even like thoughts, they were mostly like feelings, And I thought, okay, well, here goes nothing. I picked up the phone and said, hello, is this Stephen Knapp? Yes. Hello, is this a good time to talk? I thought, well, now that I'm up, I guess so. He said, oh, I'm sorry. And I said, but I just want to make sure that you were there. And then I'm going okay, so what's this about? Let's get down to the bottom of it, clear my mind of any anxiety I have. And he said, well, my superior will call you shortly and she'll tell you all about it. I'm going okay. this could be worse than I thought. So then a few minutes later, she called me and she said, this is Stephen Knapp? And I said, yes. And, I would like to inform you that you have won the Padma Shri Award. I'm going like, well, I didn't know what to think then. I was like shocked. She said, are you happy? Yeah. I said, yeah, I'm happy, I'm surprised, I'm shocked, I have no idea. And she said, well, it's a recognition of all you've done. I said, well, I guess after a lifetime of service, it's nice to be recognized like this. She said, but don't tell anybody about it just yet. I'm going like, okay, now what? Because the announcement has to come the next day, which is the day before Republic Day. And it's announced in the news, where they have a full list of all the awardees. Because you get, I think there was like about 117, 119 Padma Shri awardees, which are awarded for things like science, medicine, dance, art. Of course, my category was literature and education, and things like that. So, and then there is the next highest award, which is the Padma Bhushans, which is the third highest award. Padma Shri is the fourth highest award that the government gives to civilians. And then I think there was like 17 of those, or something like that. And then there was about 7 Padma Vibhushans, which is the second highest award. The highest award is Bharat Ratna, the jewel of Bharat. And they didn't award any of those this year, which I thought was interesting. But so anyway, they come out with a whole list the next day in the news. And so I wasn't supposed to say anything before then. But I found out that they were looking for my phone number. And one of the people they called to get my phone number was Jagger Guru. So he knew something was going on way before I did. And so I guess he gave him my phone number because they called, and that was like a few hours before they called me. So he knew something was up. And so that's how they got my phone number. So then immediately I'm thinking after that I couldn't get back to sleep because, I'd already been to sleep and now I couldn't get back to sleep. And I'm thinking well, that may mean I may have to go to India. And I thought, well, wait a minute, I better check my passport because I know it expires this year. And sure enough, February 15th, expiration date, which is like 2 weeks after they called me. And I'm on the phone like, man, I better get a passport right away. So anyway, that worked out good because it only took like a few weeks to get the passport, another couple of days to get the visa, and so I was ready to go. But they didn't call me until later, like about 2 months later. I got an email telling me when the ceremony was going to be. And so, but in the meantime, my health hasn't been that great, and I was thinking something? I don't even know if I can go, because I had another friend, Professor Subhash Kar, who had gotten his, who was also a Padma Shri awardee, and he got his Padma Shri award from a consulate general here in the United States, so he didn't have to go to India. I was thinking maybe I shouldn't go either, maybe I should just get that way. But then there was a few devotees like Ravi, who was saying, no, I want that picture. Because you get a picture of the president giving you the award. She said, I want that picture. And even little Madhya Lada, she was saying, no, you got to go for ISKCON. I'm going like, oh man, I'm stuck. I got to go. But then what happened was, I got a letter from Inod Taudi, who is the National General Secretary of the Bharatiya Janata Party. So this was this was quite a highlight. And it wasn't until I got this letter that I decided I got to go one way or another, even if I got to crawl all the way to India to get this award. But he was saying, Mr. Stephen Knapp, heartiest congratulations on being conferred the Padma Shri Award 2025. The award honors your dedication to preserving and promoting Vedic culture. From being a seeker of Eastern wisdom, because that's that's how I started out. I was just a seeker at the time, years ago, to becoming a revered scholar, author, and global advocate. Your journey is truly inspiring. Your books, like The Secret Teachings of the Vedas, Proof of Vedic Culture's Global Existence, and Mysteries of the Ancient Vedic Empire, have deepened the understanding of India's spiritual wisdom. As a devoted Krishna Bhakta, your commitment to Sanatana Dharma is exemplary. Over the last 10 years, Padma Awards have evolved to become People's Award, recognizing excellence across diverse fields, honoring pioneers like you who are pillars of India's growth story. Despite your achievements, your humility and dedication continue to inspire generations. The Padma Shri is more than an award. It reflects the nation's deep appreciation for your tireless efforts and lasting legacy. Wishing you good health and continued fulfillment in all your endeavors. Jai Hind, Vinod Taudi. So coming from the Bharatiya Janata Party like that, I thought, there's no way I can not go to India to get this award. But the significance of the Padma Award is further explained. For example, it says, the Padma Shri Award is one of the highest awards a civilian can get. The Padma Shri is a prestigious civilian award of India recognizing distinguished service in various fields. It is the fourth highest civilian award after the Bharat Ratna, Padma Vibhushan, and Padma Bhushan. The award recognizes exceptional achievements in diverse areas like art, education, science, medicine, social work, and public affairs. Here's a more detailed look at its significance. Number one, it's the recognition of excellence. The Padma Shri is a symbol of national honor, acknowledging outstanding contributions to society. It highlights the achievements of individuals who have made a notable impact in their respective fields. Two, diverse fields of recognition. The award encompasses a wide range of disciplines, including arts, literature, education, science, medicine, social service, sports, and public affairs. This broad scope allows for the recognition of talent and dedication across various sectors. Number three is a symbol of national pride. The Padma Shri is presented by the President of India on Republic Day, making it a significant national event. This formal recognition elevates the awardees and their achievements to a national level. Number four, motivation and inspiration. The Padma Shri serves as a source of inspiration and motivation for individuals to excel in their respective fields. It encourages dedication, hard work, and a commitment to public service. Number five, a reflection of national character. The awards focus on service and contribution to society, reflects the values of the nation. It recognizes the importance of individual efforts in advancing the well-being of the country. So this was pretty, it was almost like being a part of India's history, because it also is recorded, it's also photographed, it's also videographed. The list goes down on the government website, which stays forever and ever. But it's also interesting to find out the requirements to be accepted for the Padma Awards. Now this is from the government website. It is explained what is the selection criteria. And it says here, the usual practice is to invite recommendations every year from the 15th of March to the 31st of July from all state UT governments, ministry departments of the Government of India, the Bharat Ratna, Bharat Padma Vibhushan awardees, and the Institutes of Excellence. Recommendations received from them and also from other sources like central state ministers, chief ministers, government of state, members of parliament, as also private individuals, bodies, etc., are placed before the Padma Awards Committee. The Padma Awards Committee is constituted by the Prime Minister every year. In other words, he decides who's on the committee. It is headed by the Cabinet Secretary and includes Home Secretary, this is Amit Shah, the Secretary to the President, and 4 to 6 eminent persons as members. While no rigid criteria or trenchant formula for selection is applied by the Padma Awards Committee, it looks for lifetime achievements of an individual while making a selection. There ought to be an element of public service in the achievements of the person to be selected. The award is given for special services and not merely for long service. It should not be merely an excellence in a particular field, but the criteria has to be excellence plus. I never figured out how I managed to get in that category, but why question it, you know? Persons selected for the awards are subjected to verification by the investigating agencies of the government with a view of ensuring that their character and antecedents are above board. The Padma Awards are conferred on the recommendations made by the Padma Awards Committee, which are submitted then to the Prime Minister and the President for approval. Yeah, the awards are announced on the eve of the Republic Day every year. So that's what happened. They let me know when I was won, but they said don't tell anybody until it's announced in the news. And that's how some of my friends in India found out about it. Like I have one friend who's important in politics in the Northeast India, and he found out about it. He called another friend of mine in Atlanta the very next day to convey his congratulations for me. So it spread quite quickly in India. But then the thing of it is, it gives me here's the thing. A few months before this, I was thinking, you know something, I'm getting old, I don't have that much to offer anymore. I'm kind of like all washed up. I got nothing to offer anymore. You know, I'm winding down. And then all of a sudden, bam, I get a few awards, and then the Padma Shri Award, and then all of a sudden, you're in the limelight again, which gives you the opportunity to again express your appreciation for the Vedic culture, express your appreciation for Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Lord Krishna, the mercy of Lord Krishna, because that's how I feel I got this, just by the mercy of Lord Krishna. And the recommendations by some of my friends who thought it would be a good idea that I would get this award, but also by the approval of the Narendra Modi government. Because quite honestly, if it was the Congress government, this probably never would have happened. Because when the Congress government was in charge, they would mostly elect movie stars, sports stars, things like that, to getting a Padma Award. And then oftentimes there was also a business deal involved as well. Well, you want to get a Padma Award? Well, okay, well, how much is it worth to you? You know? But it was only because of the Modi government where people of an honest career or contribution to society was recognized in such a way. So I definitely have to pay my respects to the Modi government. And but he was already familiar with some of the things I was doing, which I'll explain in a few minutes. So anyway, it gave me a chance in all the write-ups, the reviews, the articles that came out before the ceremony, how much I appreciated Srila Prabhupada. I gave him all the credit. I also explained to everybody how important the Vedic culture was in helping everybody achieve their highest potential, spiritually and materially. And so it brought my preaching up to a whole other level again, just when I was thinking that I was just about finished with it. And then, fortunately, we were able to go. My health isn't such that I can handle going on a plane trip for 24 hours in a economy section very much. But the Indian government was nice enough that they paid for me and a companion, which turned out to be Rasapriya, to go business class. So that helped a lot. Anyway, we went there on the 26th. We got there on the 26th, which proved to be a very good idea. We were going to leave a day later, but we got there a day earlier and allowed us one day to get some rest, which turned out to be a very good idea because on the 27th was registration day. You registered for the event, and there was a press room where after you registered for the event, you go and meet the press. And the press was there to get interviews. I gave an interview with Times of India. I gave an interview with Doordarshan TV. And they all videotaped it. And I gave 3 or 4 other interviews as well, to whom I don't know, can't remember. But it was allowing me, once again, to bring my preaching level up to a whole other status of appreciation, because this went out to thousands and thousands of people, where I glorified the benefits of Vedic culture, tried to emphasize why the youth today should take it seriously, but also, once again, giving full credit to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Krishna. So that, again, was one aspect of being able to, because everybody was interested. Now that I'm a Padma Shri awardee, everybody was interested in what I had to say, especially as a Westerner, because I was the only Westerner that came from North America. Nobody else. I think there was one Brazilian, I know there was one European, and one person from the Orient. Other than that, one girl from Kazakhstan or somewhere like that who was also a very prominent yoga teacher. So I was one of maybe only 4 or 5 Westerners, or people outside of Indian descent, I should say, that got the award. And even the people, there was like several people from North America that got it, but they were all from Indian descent. And I was the only Westerner there. And of course, once again, I'm the first Prabhupada disciple to ever achieve this award. And the first person in the official ISKCON movement that has also gotten the award. So that was very, very special to me. But then, so the preaching was nice that I could do that to the audience of India and have it reach thousands and thousands of people that way. Especially as a Westerner, they think it, a little more special when a Westerner says something about their culture. Because the first tour of India I ever went on was back in 2001. And I was told by my friend, David Frawley, that Vajpayee, who was the Prime Minister at the time, told him that as a Westerner, you can say things that we cannot. And I was wondering, what does that mean? And then later, as I started giving lectures in front of an Indian audience, which was the first time I ever did that, I started to realize that, an Indian sannyasi is expected to say certain things and it's not such a big deal. But if a Westerner comes and says how much the Vedic culture has influenced their life, how they benefit from it, things like that, it's much different. And they take it more seriously. And I remember, as an example, I didn't know how to present myself very well in front of an Indian audience at the time. It was the first time. But by the time I got to Vishakhapatnam, I was able to give a lecture in a way that inspired them to such a degree that one person came up to me afterwards and he said, when you were speaking, I felt like you were the return of Vivekananda. Now you can understand, I'm not trying to be Vivekananda because he did some things and said some things that I don't agree with, but you can understand the compliment this person was trying to convey. Because the point of history of Vivekananda is that after decades of being indoctrinated to dislike their own culture, the Vedic culture of India, Indians finally started to have somebody, namely Vivekananda, that gave them a reason to be proud of their culture. Gave them a reason to stand up for it. Gave them a reason to understand why they should preserve and protect it. So it was a completely different thing at the time. So somehow I was coming across in that way, which was very meaningful to me when he said that. So then anyway, on the 28th was the event of the ceremony. And the ceremony was such that we had to have a rehearsal in the morning. So as soon as we got up in the morning, we got ready, we had to be at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. We had our own taxi. Every awardee had their own taxi that was paid for. And we went to the Rashtrapati Bhavan, which is a very opulent building. I've been to India 24 times. I've been through Delhi numerous times. Never saw this building before. And it was really quite, it was built by the British as a means to convey their power and prestige. But then the Indian government took it over once the British left India. And so they were taking care of it very nicely. And now it's the home of the President of India. The Prime Minister lives about 10 minutes away in his own compound. And so what happened was we had the rehearsal at 11 o'clock in the morning. We had to be there by 10. And we went through the whole procedure, the whole, what was going to happen. We had somebody come up and say, this is what's going to happen. There's going to be the national anthem, then the president will come, then we'll announce the names of all the awardees, one by one. You come up to the rug, you pay your pranams, then you come up to the president, you pay your pranams again. And then after paying your pranams to the president, she will give you the award, and then you turn and then go back to your seat. And before you're even back to your seat, they're already announcing the next person. So this is how it went. So we knew exactly what was going on. So for the event, wasn't until 6 o'clock that evening. So then we went after the rehearsal, we went into the Ashok Hall, which is the biggest and most decorative hall in the whole building. And that was for the group picture. So we had a group picture of all the Padma awardees, the Padma Shris, then the Padma Bhushans and Vibhushans on the other side. And so we got to know where we were supposed to sit. Yeah, everybody has their own place. You learn. I couldn't even find my place. I had to ask somebody, where am I supposed to sit? Somebody else had to find it for me. Oh, you sit here. Oh, okay. Because then once you know, then at 6 o'clock at night, after your ceremony is over, you know right where to go. Nobody wastes any time. Everything's very punctual, everything's very efficient. So anyway, after that, we went back to the hotel for a little bit, we got a little rest, and then, and we were staying at the Ashok Hotel, which is like a 5-star hotel, which is really comfortable, the room service was really nice, and it was a really nice place to stay. So it was very, very opulent, you might say. And it was really hot in India, so it was nice just being in air conditioning all the time. I never went outside much. And so then about 5 o'clock, about 4:30, we get into our taxis, go back to the Rashtrapati Bhavan, find our place, we sit there, then at 6 o'clock sharp, the national anthem. Well, actually, with all this commotion going on between Pakistan and India, I was not sure if the Prime Minister and the Home Minister were even going to show up. Because they usually show up for this event, because it's a very important event for the whole nation practically. As the National General Secretary said in that letter, that it's like a People's Award. So, but sure enough, I'm sitting there along with everybody else in our seats, and Amit Shah comes in. He shows up, he's the Home Minister. And then shortly after that, Prime Minister Narendra Modi shows up, he gets in his seat. So that was nice. And then a little bit later, the national anthem starts playing, and the President comes in, she takes her seat, and there's like one announcement of the importance of the Padma Awards. Then they immediately start announcing the names. This is so-and-so, and so-and-so who's got an award for this category. Everybody starts applauding. He comes up. He first goes to the carpet, the central carpet, which leads up to the, I guess you could say, the podium where the President sits. He goes up there, and he gets his award, and immediately they announce the next person, and it's really, punctual. The whole thing was done in about 45 minutes. And then they announced my name, And I'm sitting in front of like a number of, I'm sitting on the edge of where the awardees are sitting, right in front of a line of politicians. And they all start applauding, thank you very much. I do my pronouns like this. Then I go past Amit Shah and Narendra Modi, and I go like this. Then I go, Jai Hind. And they immediately start laughing, and Narendra Modi returns the pranams. I go to the carpet, offer my pranams to the president, then go up to the president, and then once again do a quick pranams. She then takes the medal, pins it on my vest, which I had, and this is a mini medal. I call it a mini medal. This is because they give you two medals. They give you one medal at the time of the ceremony, which is about 4 times bigger than this. But I figured just to show you that, what I'm saying is true. This is my mini medal, which they give you so you can wear it without, exposing the big medal to any, damage or theft or anything like that. And then she gives you the certificate. Now, the certificate is in a tube, like a gold decorated tube. And when you unfold it, it's about an 18 by 24 poster, really. So anyway, she gives you the tube, and then you're supposed to stand there for a minute and look at the photographer. But there was like 20 photographers there. It wasn't just one. Plus there's about 6 different video cameras all looking at you from different angles, all capturing the event. So then, you look towards the camera, she looks towards the camera, and then there's about 20 different bulbs start snapping away. And they take your picture. Then I thanked her again for it, turned, and went back to my seat. The thing of it is, I wasn't sure how well my leg and back was going to be that day, so I kind of loaded up on painkillers, because I was determined. I didn't want to have to use a cane or a wheelchair or anything like that. But what most people didn't see is there was a guard walking, trailing me about 4 footsteps behind me, just in case I needed any help. I thought that was very special. And then when I turned to go back to my seat, he immediately took the tube, grabbed my arm, and helped me back to my seat. And then everybody else was applauding, wanting to shake my hand, things like that. So I thought the whole thing was arranged in such a way that even things you didn't see were there to cover any shortcoming that might take place, or any need that you might have. So then, but there are some very, very qualified people that were getting the award as well. I was very, very honored to be amongst them. And then I go back, wait until the whole thing is over, the national anthem plays again, she leaves, and then Narendra Modi and Amit Shah, they also leave. And then the groups of all the awardees, they go back to the Ashok Hall like we rehearsed. We know right where to sit, right where to stand. And I was just like several seats down from Narendra Modi and the president. And then as we're sitting there, then the president comes in, the vice president comes in, Narendra Modi and Amit Shah come in, they take their seats, then they have the whole group photo of the Padma Shri awardees. Then on the other side of the room, all the Padma Bhushans and Vibhushans are sitting, so all the president has to do with Amit Shah and Narendra Modi, they just cross to the other side, take their seats there, the photographers just turn, take pictures again, we got all that covered, bingo bango, it's finished, and then we go back into another hall, which is where the refreshments are served out. And so once we're lined up, we have one line is along one side of the hall, then another line comes down the other side. And the president comes in, and she goes down one line and comes down the other, and congratulates everybody in a personal way. Of course, she doesn't speak English, so there wasn't much we could say, but she said congratulations in Hindi. And then Narendra Modi comes in. He does the same thing. Of course, he speaks English, and he seems to know everybody a little bit better. He goes down one side, comes down the other. Then when he comes to me, I have my hands, like this. And he looks at me, takes my hands, in his hands, takes my hands in his hands, and he looks at me, and we look at each other, and he says, "So, more research is going on?" So it's like he knew what I had been doing, what I had been writing, how much research goes into my books and stuff like that. So I was very impressed with that. I mean, I've heard he's got a memory as sharp as anything. So he knew. Of course, he does a review of all the awardees beforehand, so he was familiar. But he still remembered who I was and what I did. And I thought that was very impressive. I was very touched by that. And then I said, "Oh yes." In fact, I have a few books I brought along to you that I want to send to you through your assistant. And he says, "Oh yes, please send them." And then we did the pronounce one more time, and he went on to the next person. So I was very surprised by that whole event. Then he went into the next room where the guests, because the thing of it is, we knew one of the persons from the home ministry that was giving the permits to come to the event, because every person could invite one person as a guest. But we knew the person who was assistant to putting on this event. He gave us like 4 permits altogether. That's included Rasapriya's son, Rasapriya's uncle, and his niece. We were all able to go to the event. And you know, you got to admit, this doesn't happen every day, so it's kind of special. And we got pictures, because later, that assistant, Pandey Kumar, he sent me the links to the pictures. And so that's where I got the picture of me and the Prime Minister. But there was also pictures in the guest room of Rasapriya and greeting Narendra Modi, and then Rasapriya's uncle greeting Narendra Modi. So we got all these other pictures along with that. So that was really nice. So then anyway, we went and had a few refreshments, which they have their own kitchen there. They don't make everything themselves, which was included like samosa, I think a little sabji, and one of the best ras malais I've ever had. And I think I had 2 of those. And so it was nice, and then everybody just kind of like hung out and socialized a little bit before we went back to the hotel. Of course, going back to the hotel, many of us also met again in the restaurant, congratulating each other, talking to each other. And so that was very nice. I met a lot of really, really nice people there. And then the next day, for the awardees and their guests, we were able to go on a little tour of the War Memorial, which was a new thing that just been put up to commit honor for the all the soldiers and the warriors that died in the different battles of India's history, which has now made India what it is today. And then we went to the Prime Minister's Museum, which is a museum based on the history of all the Prime Ministers of India. What they came into, what they had to deal with, what they left with, and so it was like a history. But there was a small building in front, and then there's this new building in the back, which was like first class. All the presentations were like really well lit. It was air conditioned. It had elevators for people like me. It was really, really well done presentation of the history of India, covering each Prime Minister. That's why they call it the Prime Minister's Museum. And I was thinking, a lot of the youth today should understand this history, because many of the youth today do not realize all the difficulties that India has gone through to become what it is today. And then we had the tour of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Many of the rooms we'd already seen at the ceremony, but this time it was explained. This is where this came from, the design comes from this. This is the artwork that you can see here, and it explains all the different aspects of architecture and things like that, which really broadened your insight into, the meaning of the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Where the guests stay, the diplomats from other countries, of course, the residence of the president you don't see, but you can see much of the other area of and the basement, because the British built this for when they had horse-drawn carriages, which would come in through the bottom section of the building. And what they would do, they would have a tile work of wood so that the horseshoes wouldn't make so much noise when they came into the building. So all these different things you found out about, so that was very interesting. And but that was just something they put on for those of us that had won the awards. But I had never seen the Rashtrapati Bhavan before, so for me, it was a real treat. And of course, they had the press there, wanting to know what my thoughts were about the whole thing and everything, so that was nice. So then the next day, we were supposed to meet the assistant to whom to give some of my books to give to Narendra Modi. But we couldn't find him. He didn't show up. Then we called him and he said he wasn't showing up at the hotel today. So we got the idea, let's just rent a taxi and take the books to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's residence ourselves. So we got a taxi, we got into to his residence. Of course, there's like 3 rings of security. You can never get through all of them. But we got to the 3rd ring of security where you drop off the books. Then you have all these forms you got to fill out. I let Rashtrapriya do all that stuff. It was all in Hindi, so I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. So they recognized, yes, we have the books. We'll make sure Narendra Modi gets the books. But then the thing of it was, we saw, Rashtrapriya saw the appointment book that was open for who Narendra Modi was going to see that day. And Amit Shah was down for 11 o'clock in the morning. Of course, we were there about 9:30. This was about 9:30. So we knew what was going to be the topic of discussion, obviously. And then when we finally came out in front of the residence of Narendra Modi's place, there was across the street, there was 20 different cameras from all these media outlets with reporters in front of them, all reporting on what was happening with the issue between India and Pakistan. And so, that was dominating the media coverage for sure. And so then we took the other books to Amit Shah's residence, and that only took 5 minutes. We went through the security gate. Here's the books for, Amit Shah. Oh, okay, just sign here. And we got it, and make sure he gets them, and we were off. We were gone. And but that was really interesting to see how the media was covering this topic of Pakistan. So then from there, I got a taxi down to Vrindavan, stayed in Vrindavan for 5 days. That was really nice. But man, I was shocked to see how much Vrindavan has changed. In fact, I was talking to your parents about it. And they were telling me how much Vrindavan has changed too. So anyway, I was glad to be there, but other than going to Radhakund, that was about the only place I went. The traffic was so heavy. Pedestrian was so heavy. So many people there. The monkeys, you can't trust a monkey as far as you can see them now. I mean, it used to be when you go down to Loy Bazaar or the Ghats along the Jamuna, make sure you take your glasses off. Now you can't even be 5 feet away from the temple and you got to keep your glasses off. It's just, in fact, I went across the street to get some pharmaceuticals for Chintamani, and as I was coming back across the street, down the lane next to the temple, one little monkey comes up and he tries to get my bag. Of course, I've got a good grip on it. It's not going anywhere. And once he realizes that, he runs away just as fast as he ran up to get it. And I'm going man, you got to be really careful these days. Of course, I wasn't wearing my glasses and I didn't have any cell phone because they'll take your glasses, your cell phone, your camera, your shoes, whatever they can get. So you got to be really careful. Anyway, after 5 days of being in Vrindavan, we went back to Delhi for a night. And the next night, we took our flight back to America. But an interesting thing happened is that the flight was not aware of the recent developments that were going on in Pakistan, And as we were getting our seats, over the loudspeaker they said, well, there's going to be a delay. I'm going like, okay, now what? We need to take another several tons of fuel because we cannot go over Pakistani airspace. And only later, a few minutes later, we learned that that was the night when India attacked several terrorist bases in Pakistan. And to make sure we didn't get caught in any retaliation, instead of going over Pakistani airspace, we had to go from Delhi to almost all the way to Mumbai, then over the Arabian Sea and up into Europe that way. So that delayed our flight by an hour and put on 2 more hours to the length of the flight. But anyway, we got around that and made it back to America, mission accomplished, thinking we got into India just in time, but we got out just in time. So, but that's basically the story of how the events went. And I have to admit, like I said, it's definitely turned out to be one of the highlights of my life, quite honestly. The whole event and the award, and now I've got the certificate, 18 by 24 inches in a nice big frame, in my temple room, in a box. They have a really nice display box they give you for the medals, the big medal and the mini medal. And so it was really an honor and grateful to be a part of that. I'm still getting requests for interviews now because of winning the Padma Shri Award. So my preaching has gone back up, which I'm very thankful to say, to something where I feel a little more useful again. And all I can do is thank Srila Prabhupada for that, without which I wouldn't be where I am now. And thank you to Krishna's mercy for allowing all this to happen. And thank you for all of you, Jaguru and everybody, for supporting me in this way. So that's about it. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, I think we got a few minutes, maybe 5 more minutes. I always like to take up as much time as possible so there's no question. But in this case,
congratulations on amazing achievement to be the first in this time to get such a recognition and it's well deserved. So what's your next book?
I'm writing my autobiography, actually. I figured this is a good time to do it, as old as I am, and I can end it with winning the Padma Shri Award. Depending on inspiration, if something else comes up and I'm inspired to write about it, I'll write about it. Or I might just write a few articles, something like that. I'm writing another article right now on the contributions that India and Vedic culture has given us so that we can all be or reach our highest potential as possible. Whether it's Ayurveda, Jyotish, Vastu Shastri, Yoga, the Vedic library, as I call it, from the Rig Veda up to the Bhagavad Purana and everything in between. It covers such a degree of views of what is the absolute truth. You'll find it nowhere else. None of this happens anywhere else. Anyway, I'm putting that together, and I just put together a few months ago a book on the need for defending Vedic culture. Is it part of our Dharma? And that's a little controversial because I've found places, even at the time of Krishna's appearance, there were demons trying to wipe out Brahmins and Brahmin culture. So what do we do about it? So that's the nature of that article, which I'm presenting, by the way. There's a temple in Bloomington, Illinois, which is having its 5-year grand opening ceremony. And I'm giving a YouTube presentation, or Zoom presentation on YouTube, which I'll be presenting that paper, because they're having, interestingly enough, they're having myself, my friend Subhash Kak, another Padma Shri awardee, my friend David Frawley, a Padma Bhushan awardee. They're having some of us give presentations each night for like 3 or 4 nights on Zoom, and so I'll be presenting that paper there. But otherwise, we'll just have to see what catches my inspiration. If you got any ideas, let me know. Anything else? Yeah.
Can we organize something that you can also present something in the temple, like one of the things, like a short summary or something that kind of gives us a video?
Yeah, I'm sure we can do something like that. We'll just connect with Jagaguru and Nitya Krishna and see what arrangements can be made. Thank you. Anything else? Someone?
What stimulated you at the early stage to write about leading scriptures of India?
Well, it's interesting because I always wanted to write. And as a hot-blooded, red-blooded American, sometimes when we get something we like, we want to share it with other people. Because if it affects me in a positive way, it will affect you in a positive way. Anyway, that's just, being American, we're a little rough around the edges sometimes. I'm not as smooth as some of you. So, which probably is a good thing, because otherwise I might not be sitting here now. But, so I wanted to express and distribute this knowledge to other people. And I have to admit, I was terrible at book distribution. Book distribution, sending them street corners, going door to door, things like that, I was terrible at it because I'm too introverted. Because I think I've got over it a little bit, to some degree. But I was too introverted. You could send me on the streets and I'd come back with $10 or something like that, after a day's worth of trying to distribute, So it just wasn't working out for me. So anyway, back in 1984, late 84, I proposed the idea of starting a temple newsletter. And everybody thought it was a good idea, because we already had a newsletter which had ceased to exist. So I thought, let me just revive it. So then I made a prototype. I interviewed the temple president on the future of the temple and, all this other stuff. And I passed out some copies of it. Everybody liked it. Yeah, let's go with it. But the treasurer at the time, he just said, something, Srinathananda, I'm not giving any money for your project. Good luck. Laughed in my face. So I could have gotten really upset. I could have said, if this is the way things are going to go, then I'm not doing anything. Or if this is the way things are going to go with this person, I'm going to, demand this or demand that. I just thought, this teaches me one thing. If I'm going to do something, don't depend on anybody. Don't depend on the temple, don't depend on anybody. Just focus on things yourself. So, over the course of the next few years, I started writing my own book, which I was just going to offer as a home study course. I wasn't going to get into book publishing. I was going to offer him a home study course for it. And I did. I had it printed up. I had 100 copies of this book printed up. It had everything, karma, reincarnation, this and that, so many different things. And so what happened was I offered it as a book or a course. A few people, bought it as a course, but most people just bought it as a book. So once I learned that, I kind of streamlined what I was going to do. Books seemed to be the way to go. So then after that, I formed my own publishing company. And with my own publishing company, then I could distribute, and you were listed in lists where bookstores would buy the book from you directly. So then that started going on, and I felt good about it. This is my preaching. This is my kind of preaching. So then I wrote a few other books, like the Vedic Prophecies, and other books like that. And then in the mid-90s, somebody called me up and said, "Oh, do you still have that book, The Secret Teachings of the Vedas?" Yeah. "Is that still for sale?" "Yeah." "What's the wholesale price?" $673. can we get a copy? I said, sure. Who do I send it to? Amazon. Sure, no problem. I'm thinking to myself, Amazon? What the hell kind of name is Amazon? You know? Is this a guerrilla marketing program of some kind? I don't know, you know? And then a few months later, they ordered another one. And then another. And it turned out we established a pretty good relationship. And so my writing became kind of like a cottage industry, where I was writing different books on different topics to try to bring people in to look at Vedic culture. Whether it was the Vedic prophecies, or whether it was something else, or then later Proof of Vedic Culture's Global Existence. And that in itself proved to be a book that opened so many doors of opportunity that I never even knew existed. And that was the book that really started getting an Indian audience. And that was the book also that started getting me sponsored lecture tours across India. And so sometimes you just don't know what could happen. But I just wanted to share this knowledge with other people. And like I say, I was terrible at book distribution. But writing and publishing seemed to be a different avenue. And it seemed to work pretty good. And it got to be where I am now, really. So that's how it got started. And as it went through a rejection, I was rejected to start a temple newsletter, which started me motivating me to take it into a completely different direction, which changed my life forever. So instead of trying to get through a problem, sometimes it's easier just to go around it. Just to go around it and keep on going. You know? So that's what worked for me. Anyway, that's going to be in my biography. And I tell people that all the time. If you simply find a niche, a service that you like to do, and you stick with it, don't give up, then doors of opportunity can open that you never even knew were there. Just keep on doing it. Because like I tell people, I've been called a Swamiji, I've been called Dr. Knapp, I've been called a Vedic scholar, all these different things because of what I've done. And I tell people, I'm not really into those things. The only qualification I ever had was I just never gave up. That's it. Of course, you fine-tune your way along the route, you know, make things better, change things here, there, whatever. Try to make it more efficient, more accommodating. But basically, that's all I ever did. I just never gave up. Until Krishna finally said, okay, enough already. Give you a little recognition. Or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, just shows you, don't give up, never give up. I think that was a speech of, was it Winston Churchill one time? He went out, he was going to say something about winning the war or something like that. He just gave 3 words 3 times. Never give up, never give up, never give up. So that's all I did. So that's also a sign for our devotional service. In our devotional service, sometimes we have up days, sometimes we have down days. Sometimes we have the days we're feeling the bliss, we are feeling the nectar. We can't see how anybody couldn't, feel this blissful in this kind of arrangement, in this kind of sadhana, in this kind of spiritual practice. Other days we're thinking like, I just don't feel it today. Just don't feel it today. I don't know what's it. Hey, never give up. Just keep pushing on. Eventually you'll reach success. Okay. So, June 1st, 2025, Davison Mandir. That's class. All glories to